So, how did you guys meet to start?
Oh, wow.
We're graphic designers. We met in art school.
Yeah, and so when you first moved to Baltimore, I'm assuming Memorial Stadium was here. Did you ever go to games in Memorial Stadium?
We went to one game. And we had, neither of us had any interest in baseball.
Yeah, we really didn't. And actually, the one game we went to at Memorial Stadium, and it was in the second inning, and someone was explaining to me like how it goes and, you know, the 3 outs and all. And I'm like, oh my God, there's 9 innings of this. I mean, I was really like, after 2, I was ready to go. But things have changed a lot. Yeah.
And that, like I was explaining, we couldn't, at Memorial Stadium, they would park cars almost touching. So if we wanted to leave at the second inning, you couldn't, because you couldn't get out.
What did you think of the stadium? Like, was it old and decrepit?
I didn't know enough about baseball to have an opinion.
I would say that too, you know. It was interesting. You know what I thought was most interesting is people pass their money down to,
Yeah.
I was just like, what? You know, like just down the aisle. Again, we'd never been to a baseball game, so I had no clue.
So, when did you first hear, or if you remember, when did you first hear of the Camden Yards project? Like, what was your initial reaction?
We moved here. We moved here from Connecticut. We knew very little about Baltimore. We found this house and we liked it. It was big. It was just what we were looking for. And I even remember asking the realtor as we went past Camden Station and the warehouse, which was pretty run down. I said, is there any development plans for that? And he kind of said, I'm sure they'll do something.
And then let me tell the rest of the
Yeah.
story just about, so we went to our first community meeting and we bought a house in this neighborhood called Ridgely's Delight. So we went to this community meeting and they were talking about this stadium that's in Camden Yards. And the way they were talking, we were like, where the heck is Camden Yards? Because it sounds really close. We live in Ridgely's. What are we talking about? And lo and behold, you know, we found out it was literally at the end of the street. And so that's how we found out. And we panicked, I would say. I mean, like most of the neighbors, you know, the fear of the unknown. And we just thought about all the negatives of a stadium. You know, the parking, the noise, the traffic. Would you say?
As you can imagine, everybody was pretty scared at the time. I heard very little talk about the positives. It was, oh my God, this is going to be hell. You're not going to be able to park. People are going to be peeing on the front of your house. The games are going to go late.
I thought you would have to have a schedule of the games in your car so you would know when to not come home if the game was starting or ending, you know, like those kinds of things.
Yeah, so you said it was run down before the stadium was even
It
built.
was industrial. Camden Station was still in use, but it was pretty run down.
That was run down.
The warehouse was not being used for much of anything. I know they were, if I remember, for a while you could take a carriage ride around the Inner Harbor, and they were stabling the horses in the warehouse. I came home one day. I was walking downtown, and the Barnum and Bailey Circus had pulled up on Utah Street, and I'm walking downtown, and the elephants walked in front of me. They had unloaded the circus on Utah Street, and we're taking it up to the Civic Center.
So after that community meeting, what was the thought process? Like, were you guys like, well, we have to do something to get the stadium not built here? Like, what did you do after that community meeting?
There was a guy at the meeting that approached us afterwards, and his name was Bill Marker, who you've interviewed, and he said, join my, I don't know what he called it at the time, committee or whatever, and I did some artwork for him, and then he got us involved.
So how how many, do you remember how many members of the community were part of that, coalition?
Yeah, that's a good question. There were people that moved before the stadium was built. They were just like, I'm out. And, Kathy and RW moved. A few people moved.
I'd be willing to bet that close to half or more weren't members of the coalition, but probably signed the petition. It wasn't a popular idea here.
Was there a specific moment that really solidified your opposition to the ballpark?
No.
It was like I said, it was the fear of the unknown. As it got closer, and when they started construction, I don't know about you, I had second thoughts. I started thinking, yeah, this might not be so bad.
Yeah, I mean, there were people that took photographs as the different buildings were getting torn down for the stadium. And it was, at that point, it was sort of exciting. I just remember Mike and Patty, it was sort of exciting to see something happening there. I mean, I don't think I had concerns, but I wasn't totally on board with this is the worst thing ever. So I think when we sort of lost when it was going to happen no matter what any of these neighbors said, then I think I was leaning into it more. Like maybe this could be okay.
What were some of those major concerns for you guys? Like, what was the first thing on your mind when the stadium?
Parking, noise, crowds.
Did you have experience with stadiums previously?
No. And I think if we had, we would have felt different.
How involved were you with the petition, or you just guys signed it and?
You were more involved with me. I'm like.
I don't like to admit this today. Bill had me on his executive board. I don't remember. I was either treasurer or secretary or something. But I don't like to admit that today.
How was the construction process of the park for you guys? You lived really close to it. Was there a lot of noise, a lot of just construction people walking up down the
We
street?
kept losing power a lot. Didn't you remember that? It'd be like, oh my God, I don't know what they were doing over there.
We actually got we were transferred to Manhattan around the time the construction started. So we were not living here. We kept the house and we were coming back like once or twice a month. So we missed a lot of the early construction.
We were back for the tail end of it.
Yeah.
Somewhat, yes. I don't
And
remember what
we
year
happened
it
to be here
started.
that they imploded some of the buildings.
It was cool.
Do you remember some of the graphic design work you did for the board?
Do you have that?
You
might be able to
might
find
somewhere. I'd
it.
have to
It was
look for it.
great, actually, because it was, this ugly stadium. It was before they had figured out the plans that it looks as nice as it does now. So the worst fear was just like this concrete bowl with parking all the way around it, right?
The initial renderings were pretty ugly. I'm sure you've seen them. It
But
wasn't
you drew what? The houses sort of. Yeah, that was
cars
just.
roaring up the street.
Yeah.
The stadium design until before Camden Yards was pretty bad.
So what do you think of the design now that you can see the finished product?
I love it.
Love it.
And Sharon at the time, we were transferred to New York, and she was doing freelance work for People magazine, and they did a issue. It was 9 for the 90s.
Yeah, it was some like futuristic,
Of what
things to look, people to look for, places to look for, like just what was up and coming.
and it featured Kurt Schmoke, but it also, and it had a piece on this ballpark that was being built.
I'm the one that suggested it in the editorial meeting. I mean, there was an article in the New York Times that helped a lot. Like right before, there was this, it was an architect review on the New York Times, and gave it good high marks. And so I mentioned that to the editors of People, and they actually did like a one-page. Again, it was just the renderings; it hadn't happened, but that made the cut of new and different, and it turned out to be right, because then after Camden Yards, many of the baseball fields looked a lot like Camden Yards for many years. So.
Which I think is funny, because that wasn't HOK. Maybe they'll argue with me, but that's not what they wanted to do
Initially.
It was Janet Marie Smith and others that decided that's what it should look like.
So,
And they went with that, and every stadium since then has looked like that.
so who would you give credit most to the design?
Janet Marie Smith.
Ditto.
So when you moved back from Manhattan,
Mm-hmm.
was that previous to opening day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the mood of the neighborhood kind of leading up to opening day?
Like Sharon said, the people that were really opposed, a lot of them had moved, which seems funny now. I think there was excitement building. And the day the stadium opened, if you dig up the Baltimore Sun, on the front page there's an article, and Sharon is quoted as saying, I don't know squat about baseball, but I'm going to learn. And we didn't know anything about baseball, but we bought season's tickets that year.
We did buy season's tickets with some neighbors, and none of us were like baseball fans. I think we got 4 seats for 6 people. And so we put them out on the table, and it was like a Ouija board or something, because we were like, well, I don't care what ticket I get, because we knew nothing about the teams, and we're like, well, what's, I don't know. We picked
Mariners,
it.
where are they from?
We picked it by like, what time of the year it was, and if we thought it would be a nice summer night or something. We really didn't know.
But we've kept those tickets the entire time it's been open, and our group has grown, and there's somewhere between 25 or 30 of us, mostly from the neighborhood now.
So for opening day, were you there?
No, that was the hardest ticket in the world to get.
So when was the first time you...
We went to, there was an exhibition game before it opened, and we went to that.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Yeah.
Did we? Okay, cool.
Which was actually the first game played there, but it was just an exhibition game.
What was your first impression of the ballpark?
I thought it was gorgeous.
Yeah, and after it opened, just the worries went away, because when I interviewed Mayor Schmoke, he said that on opening day, pretty much before the game, all he did was walk around the stadium because he was that worried about traffic. And when you experienced your first game days, were the concerns about traffic and people like late nights coming around and like drunk and stuff walking down the streets? Were those concerns kind of washed away?
Pretty much.
Yeah, surprisingly, it seemed to exit. It wasn't a problem, the traffic. I mean, I don't know whether it's because Russell Street has 3 lanes each way, and people were going. It seemed to empty out pretty well, where there wasn't. We were able to get into the neighborhood without trouble, and there was people walking on the streets. I mean, still, I think more now they come this way, but
it's a pleasant crowd.
Yeah, it's mostly a pleasant crowd, and it's nice to have life on the street versus just an empty, dark street. So that turned out all right. Mm-hmm.
In the first few years, almost every game, if not every game, was a sellout. So for the longest time, you'd just get mobs of people walking through, but it was never a problem. It was always a pleasant crowd. You could go out, sit on the stoop, and say how'd the game go, get the score.
Do either of you have a favorite memory of attending a game?
Yeah, plenty. Being this close, like they used, like the night that Eddie Murray hit his 500th home run, we were getting ready for bed. We had the windows open, and you could hear the roar, and I said, "That's it. He hit his 500th home run," because they were expecting it, you know. And so we ran out the door. We ran up, and it was late. I think they'd gone extra innings, so there was not that many people there. We went right up to the first row, and we watched the ceremony, and I realized I had not put shoes on.
Sharon, do you have a favorite memory besides the Eddie?
I think, well, we did run up to see Cal Ripken's. I think just the fact of being so close, it just feels,
It's part of the neighborhood.
it's part of the neighborhood. And, you know, like any of the negatives, it's so easy for us. I mean, in like 3 minutes, we can get down from our seats, maybe more than 3 minutes, and you know, we can walk home. It's just, I mean, that's great. But like a particular, I would say mostly just, like you said, it's part of the fabric now. So even if you're in the yard working and you hear cheers, you know, we can almost tell what is a home run. We can definitely hear a home run because they'll put the fireworks, but you know, you can tell if it was just a base hit or if the Orioles are doing well, unless the Yankees are here, and then it's hard to detect, which, because there's cheering on both sides, so we can't really know. You know, sometimes it sounds like the Orioles are doing great, and then we find out, oh my God, that was the Yankees fans. So yeah.
There's being here, you become very involved in baseball. There's people in the neighborhood work as beer vendors, ushers. Even the mascot lived in our neighborhood for quite a while. It just, summer is baseball.
What's that walk like from the front steps of your house to the stadium?
Yeah, it's so easy. I mean, it's great.
I think I timed it once. From our seats in the upper deck back to the house was less than 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So do you ever think back to when you first like knew about the stadium and like your initial reaction and your conversations with Bill Marker? Like, do you ever think back on that?
Oh yeah, and live and learn. And what I when the Ravens Stadium was proposed, nobody in the neighborhood fought it.
Oh yeah, good point. I mean, it is a little bit further down. We don't get the impact that we do from Oriole Park. But yeah, that just kind of.
Opening day here is a big holiday.
Oh yeah.
Every year it's we have Christmas, New Year's, and opening day. Those are the.
And anybody that moves new into the neighborhood, we tell them, mark it on your calendar and make sure you take that day off, you know, or at least you can work a half a day, but you've got to be back by, you know, noon or whatever.
Do you remember what you were doing on the opening day of the ballpark instead of being?
You know, I don't.
I'm sure we were.
Where were we?
I don't know.
We weren't
That's
out of town or anything, were we?
We were here. I was saying that the president came in, landed, the helicopter landed in Carroll Park, and then the motorcade came up Washington Boulevard. Bill Marker, after fighting the stadium, didn't want to be here that day. So he was out of state, but he had left his car on Washington Boulevard. So he didn't get the notice that they were towing. And so I found a tow truck driver who, for $10, moved his car around the corner. And he just recently found out that I did that.
So you guys keep in touch still?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really have too many more questions, but one of my final ones is, what do you think your biggest lesson of living here, being right next to a ballpark, and just from going to opposition of it, knowing nothing about baseball, to being season ticket holders for 30-ish years now?
Yeah. We were wrong.
We were wrong. it's natural to go not in my backyard. It's natural to oppose the unknown. When I look back, it opens my eyes, and when they talk about some other big project, I go, that doesn't sound good, but let me look into it.
Yeah, I think I'm less anxious to condemn something without.
A good example is the rebuilding of Harbor Place. The knee-jerk reaction is, oh my God, you can't do that. That's going to destroy Harbor Place. After our experience with the baseball stadium, I'm a little less inclined to say that.
How do you think Camden Yards kind of changed the city?
Oh, tremendously.
Yeah.
And if they could just win a World Series, it would change it even
Oh
more.
my God, we hope we're still alive for that.
When you talk about best memories, one of the best one was the All-Star game that was here.
Oh yeah, and then remember they had the Cuba game.
Yeah, the
There
Cuba
was
game. That was
game
really good.
that was good and exciting. People came from all over there, right?
Yeah.
All over the East Coast, you know. So it's definitely got a positive vibe through the city. And it's really nice for us because we walk all over the place. And so, you know, we see the people coming in, especially when the Orioles started to win over the past couple of years. We could see the amount of people coming from everywhere. You know, we would be walking to the harbor on a day we didn't have tickets, and there would just be throngs of people walking from, you know, like East Baltimore, I don't know where, like beyond the stadium here, and from Lexington Market down and Pigtown over. So it's just, I mean, it just adds a lot of life, and we hope, you know, the restaurants and everybody does well from having more people here.
And you can go almost anywhere in the country, and they say, well, where are you from? And you say, I live a block from Camden Yards, and they know exactly what you're talking about. And most of them have been to a game here.
What would you say to people that moved out because they're so concerned about the city? What would you say to them now?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, everybody had their specific reasons, but you know, in other words, if they were not going to embrace baseball, then they still stayed here, they probably would not be happy.
I don't think anyone moves in now that isn't a baseball fan of some sort. Or they're aware of it, they know that
Yeah, maybe people buying houses, but people renting, you know, yeah. Obviously it's here and it has impact, and it's generally a positive thing now.
So yeah, actually, finally, this is an obvious question, but do you think you made the right choice staying here?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.